Welcome to Photoactive, a podcast about photography and technology. I'm Kirk McElhone.
And I'm Jeff Carlson.
So we're in a rush today because Jeff has a meeting very soon, and we're recording earlier than usual. So we're going to try and get through everything we have to talk about today as quickly as possible. The first thing we want to talk about today is the new iPhone upgrade program, but it's not an iPhone upgrade program.
It is not. In fact, I'm kind of bummed about this because I've been using the iPhone upgrade program for, 5 years or something now, which basically allows me to essentially lease a phone so that I can swap it out for the brand new model every year. That works out really well for me professionally because I'm writing about it, et cetera, et cetera. And they're now retiring this in favor of – what is it called? A
program where you lease a phone and you can upgrade it every year. That's the thing. There's not much of a difference.
It's called Apple Upgrade now. Yeah.
Right, because it's not just the iPhone. It covers iPhone, Apple Watch, iPad, and Mac, I think.
Yeah. It says here, for the iPhone, monthly payments start at $17.99 for an iPhone 17e, $34.99 for an iPhone 17 Pro Max. You can do different leasing periods. I don't know. On the surface, it seems like it's fairly similar, but I don't know. It seems – well – I guess part of it is because this is like being paired with Klarna, and
you've never heard of Klarna, have you?
I've heard of Klarna.
They're a huge company over here. They do what's called buy now, pay later.
Yes, and
there are lots of websites I go to, and you can spread your purchase over 3 months with Klarna at 0% interest.
Yeah.
So essentially, the merchant pays X% to Klarna to take on the risk.
Okay, I know that Klarna also has like a separate mobile cell phone plan that you can get. That's my context for knowing them.
I'm surprised that Apple picked them because most people I've talked to in the States have never heard of them.
Yeah. I mean, I guess part of this seems like it would be something that Apple could do themselves. So why are they pairing with somebody else that would presumably they're taking an extra cut, maybe just because Apple doesn't want the administrative hassle of it all?
It's the same reason that Apple has outsourced their financing since forever.
Yeah.
There's probably an accounting reason for it, right?
Yeah.
That if they handle it, it gets accounted different, and their profit margin, instead of being 68%, comes down to 63% or something like that. It's probably an accounting thing that while it costs them a bit of money, it ends up more beneficial in terms of maintaining the share price or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah, that's true. So
over here, it's been Barclays that's handled the 0% financing for a very long time.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess, I don't know, what's the difference here? It seems like if you are not going to change your phone every year, then what are the terms? Like you have certain number of months to decide whether you're going to finish paying off the phone. Is that the deal?
Well, it's like a car lease. At the end of the lease period, you can either buy the device for X amount, or you just hand it back and it's gone.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much the same with the iPhone upgrade program.
Yeah.
But you can't buy the device at the end of no, you would keep it at the end of 2 years if you want. If you don't want to upgrade it, that would be the difference. And here it's the same. Once you've paid it off, I think you can keep it as well. That doesn't change.
Okay. So why does this feel like a step back?
One of the reasons I'm seeing is that the price that's quoted doesn't include AppleCare.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas it was included with the iPhone upgrade program.
That was a very big draw for sure. Yeah.
I'm looking at Mac Stories, and John Voorhees has an article where he's saying that AppleCare is an additional $14 a month for an iPhone. Now, that might be AppleCare with theft and loss, which maybe not everyone needs, right?
Yeah.
That there's 2 tiers for AppleCare. But adding that on makes it a lot more expensive. The thing is, I'm surprised Apple hasn't done this earlier. In fact, years ago, I said that what Apple should do is have a monthly subscription to their iPhone, which includes cellular access. They could be an MVNO, a mobile virtual network operator, buy cellular access from all the different providers, and give you one price for the phone, the AppleCare, and your cellular plan. It almost makes sense because they're trying to mask the high price of iPhones that's going to come out in September. We mentioned in a recent episode about the increase in price of other Apple devices. So we're going to see probably a 20% increase on the iPhone, and this will make it more palatable because people see, hey, $35 a month. Okay, that's a lot better than.
Yeah.
I think the big gotcha is not having Apple Care and people thinking they don't need to spend it. So when they get to the end of their term and they go to hand it back, they end up paying for the wear and tear on the device.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
It's the same when you lease a car. It's the same. If you do too many miles or if the car is damaged, you have to pay something for it.
I've never actually ever leased a car. So
okay,
I don't know what this means. I don't know.
It's a good way to do it if you want to change cars every few years.
Yeah.
To get newer technology. And often what this means is you're always covered by all the warranties, that things don't, you never have to replace anything. Your first years of service are cheaper than your later years of service, unless, of course, you have an electric car where it's cheap for the entire life.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But it's a mental model. Do you want to own or do you want to rent? It's the same thing we're seeing with apps going more towards subscription and away from one-off purchases.
Yeah, I guess maybe part of this is because I don't want change, but I guess I'm getting change. But maybe I'm not actually getting a change. It's just kind of rebranded in a slightly different way because I've not actually owned a phone for years and years and years for exactly this reason, because I need to get the newer one every year. And a lot of the cellular companies, like depending on when you're buying a phone with cellular service, like they'll lock you into 2 years of having to pay for it. So some people, you get to the end of that year and you think, oh, I'd really like the iPhone 18 Pro. And contractually you can't unless you pay a big bulk price at the end there. So I don't know. It just seems weird. It seems not weird. It gives me that lower gut feeling of someone's trying to scam me out of something by adding complications.
You think Apple would try to make more money off you?
Oh, no. I would never think that. No. I mean, Apple is happy to just coast along, barely profitable, as long as they can make everybody happy. Beleaguered. I need to get away from this window because I'm afraid that maybe lightning is going to hit me or something for saying this.
Now, the thing is, for me, I've never not owned a phone. In fact, I've never not owned an unlocked phone because you've been able to buy them unlocked here since forever, long before they were available in the States. So I've never had a contract with a cellular provider. I've always bought from Apple. I've always resold before buying a new one. Once or twice I've traded into Apple because less of a hassle. And in fact, it just seems like eBay is becoming more of a hassle for everything. So if I get a new phone this year, I'll trade I have a 16 Pro Max. I'll trade this into Apple. I might not get a new phone this year. It really depends. It's more of a business thing. Do I need to spend more money to reduce my corporation tax? That kind of thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, I'm not writing about the phone that much, and I really don't care that much about the camera since you've always got the latest camera. So for the podcast, you can always talk about it, and I can live vicariously through your photos and all of that.
Exactly.
In any case, what's interesting is you could buy a Mac, an iPad, an iPhone, and an Apple Watch, lump it all together. I don't know what it's going to cost, a couple $100 a month, which compared to potentially $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 for the four of them, if not a little bit more.
Oh, yeah.
Depending on what you buy.
Well, I like my last this MacBook Pro, I used some Apple program. I can't remember what they called it, but it was something that let me pay it off in installments over, I want to say 2 years or 3 years or something, maybe 2 years. And I mean, actually, I think that is the hugest thing right there, which is somebody's looking at buying a new MacBook Pro and they're thinking, I don't know if I have $2,600 right now, but I certainly have $175 every month that I can put toward it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, there is an interesting risk that apparently people saw a code in the iOS 27 betas that suggests that if you haven't paid, Apple can lock the phone.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
It makes sense, but on the other hand, it's kind of, back in the old days when you'd have someone knock on your door every week to pay your rent, not you and me, but you go back to the 30s. And like, if you don't pay that week, they're going to throw you out. It kind of feels un-Apple-y, that kind of.
I think that's it right there. I think that's it right there.
Un-Apple-y.
It feels un-Apple-y. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Un-Apple-y.
It feels Ternusian.
Oh, I thought you were being French for a second, but you're speaking of John Turnus.
Exactly. Ternusian.
Ternusian.
It's not cookish, it's Ternusian.
Yeah.
Apple is not Apple anymore.
Yeah.
It's not the same company. It's a money machine. They don't care about you. They don't care about me. Sorry, any Apple people listening. But I mean, they know it. They know it. It's lost that fuzzy feeling that we used to have, right? That we were part of a community. Now we're just part of a bunch of people who buy the same thing as if it's going to a fancy Walmart.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, my fuzzy feeling for Apple is still there in the sense of like, I would rather deal with them, like with phones. I would rather deal with them than with one of the cellular carriers. So like, I've always gotten phones from Apple. I recommend people getting them from Apple because it seems more straightforward than what the phone carriers do, because those just seem like –
because they always want to screw you.
Yeah. You know, like there's so many details and complications, and part of it is because they want you to think, oh, I can get this brand new iPhone 17 Plus for $30 a month, or I can get it for free if I just sign up for this plan. And you're like, well, it's not free. And it's just that little bit of, I feel like I'm being scammed. Even if I'm not being scammed, like I guess I have like a higher radar for that. I hope I have a higher radar for that.
Okay, let's talk about photography, because we just had the world's greatest sporting event, and it wasn't the one where grown men roll on the floor as if they've been stomped on every time someone touches them. It's the one where grown men ride over 3 weeks for 3,000 kilometers up and down mountains, sweating, crashing in extreme heat in the Tour de France this year. There were days when it was getting close to 40 degrees, which is over 100 in American English. Yeah. And so there was an article in The Guardian today by a photographer named Pete Goding, who has been photographing the Tour de France for 20 years. And he talks about what it's like. And what's really interesting is there's kind of a pool of accredited photographers, and they don't all get to go on the motorcycles every day. They've cut down the number of motorcycles. Now, if you've never seen it, we're going to put a link in the show notes to a video with about 4 minutes of onboard footage from bikes and from cars and from motorcycles. The guys on these motorcycles, they're kamikazes. One of the French commentators, his motorcycle driver is like a rally driver. These aren't just, like DoorDash courier. These are professional drivers, because what they're doing is they may be going really slow on a steep mountain at 20 kilometers an hour, which is not a lot of miles, or they're going down after a climb at 100 kilometers an hour, or about 70 miles an hour. Mm-hmm. And they're constantly navigating sharp turns, bad weather, riders coming all over the place. Now imagine the photographer sitting on the back of that with his camera, having to point the camera and focus and shoot.
Yeah. And crowds. Don't forget about lots and lots and lots of crowds. I mean, that's the crazy thing about the Tour de France is you just have people on the side of the road. Like there aren't barriers in a lot of places. There are I did notice there were more sections where they had like a little rope that they had set up this year that seemed – but
I mean, there's metal barriers when you get to the last bit of a climb, the last couple kilometers.
Yeah.
But you can see in certain climbs that it's like the riders are going through a sea that separates just before them. So there's always a motorcycle in front of each group of riders. And the motorcycle clears the way, and then the riders go. And some of them think it's horrible, but some of them just love the experience of all these people cheering. And when you hear the noise on TV, it's really quite extraordinary.
Yeah. Well, and like a stage like the Alpe d'Huez, which, is super steep, it's slow, quote unquote slow, unless you're one of them on the bike where you realize they're doing 15, 20 miles an hour uphill
on a 10% uphill grade.
On a 10% uphill grade, which is insane. And the crowd is opening up literally like 4 or 5 feet in front of them. It's very anxiety inducing to watch that. But what's interesting about the photographers on the motorcycles, you also have to realize they are juggling multiple cameras because they need to have something that has like a really good long zoom as well as something really wide for when the riders are up close. They are completely at the whims of the driver. And so in addition to –
Well, I think they can tell the driver what they want to do. They can tell them when to stop and when to go and where they want to go.
What I meant with that is like they're not doing any piloting. And so –
Right.
As they're taking photos, they're turning their torsos around, sometimes like trying to shoot behind them, while you have somebody else who is driving the motorcycle, and the photographer also has to make sure that their balance is set and they're not flying off the side. And I mean, just personally, I think just being on the motorcycle is enough of a challenge, and now you have to have 2 big camera bodies, helmet, all the equipment you need. Of course, like you can't just reach into a bag or something unless you move ahead somewhere. And so you need to be reactive, have all that stuff. And let's not forget the actual job, which is you are looking for photos, you are composing, you are making sure you have, the right settings for capturing action or dialing down so you can get like maybe a slower shutter speed to get the blur of the peloton going by. I mean, there's just so many things happening all at once. It's amazing. And then you see some of the pictures and this says, all right, these are professional photographers and they really know what they're doing. It's impressive as hell.
And you compare it to other sports like really hard sports to photograph, like golf. I mean, I shouldn't laugh because, these are still professionals shooting golf.
Oh, yeah.
But like football, soccer, baseball to a certain extent.
The Olympics, like the Olympics, I think are a good analog because a photographer at the Olympics really has to be the master of everything. But you're right. They're still in that position of they probably have either a certain spot that they've been assigned to or maybe like a small area. Even I saw – maybe I'll find the link. There's a woman who photographed a lot of the World Cup games and wrote about that experience and how sometimes she was in one spot, sometimes she got to roam, sometimes she could go in where like when the team comes out of the locker room, that sort of lid area right there. And so like there's some flexibility there. But this is you got to be prepared for anything. You're going to be on a bike some days. You're going to be at the finish line some days. You're going to be on 4 different spots on the route that day. So just that flexibility that you have to have. Oh, and you have to make excellent photos that are going to be broadcast as soon as possible. Right.
You have to send them to whoever you're sending, whatever press agency, whoever you're working for. You have to send the photos, and you probably are you doing that from the motorcycle? Do you do it after the stage? Probably from the motorcycle, or probably they plug in to upload as many as possible?
Yeah, I would guess they probably have like some way that they could do it from the motorcycle in case, like, let's say there's a big crash in the middle of the course and they need to like for example, Jonas Vingegaard. Jonas Vingegaard, when he crashed out, I would imagine that the photographers there needed to send those pictures as soon as possible and not wait till the end of the stage because that was a major breaking news item. Yeah. So they probably have some method, but I'll bet most of them get uploaded at the end of the stage. Oh, and also this is the Tour de France. So you are moving every single day. You finish the stage, you have to go to the next destination the next morning or that night, and it's just the logistics just boggle my brain in a really good way.
I know it's 3 weeks, and when you see aerial shots of the finish line, and you see the number of trucks that are there, and you see the number of temporary structures for the podium, for the TV people, for all of that. Then when you realize everything that's coming to clean up behind. Now, the Tour de France went in front of my house every 2 or 3 years when I lived in the Alps, and you would see them come by afterwards, all the trucks bringing all the stuff from along the road, and it's advertising, it's barriers here and there, it's flags, it's, markers to indicate dangerous bits on the road and all of that. And they're picking all that up and they're moving on to the next stage. And the next morning, they're setting it up again for another 200 kilometers. It is an extraordinary thing. It's not like they can do it 2 days in advance, although they do actually do some of the signage a couple days in advance, but they can't set up everything. And they can't take it down 2 days later. Yeah. It's like imagine if you've ever seen, was it The Song Remains the Same, the Led Zeppelin concert movie? I think there was pictures of them on the plane, and then they showed the trucks. No, it was Wings Across America.
Okay.
That was the one where they show the 4 semis taking the stuff to the next place. And imagine that multiplied by 20 or 30 with the amount of material that they have to set up and tear down. It's just the logistics of it are extraordinary. They've set up a route. The route's announced, usually October for the following year. So the logistics team, they've already been working on next year's route for a while, right? They're already planning this. It's the organization that reserves all the hotels and allocates them to the different teams, which meant that some of the teams were complaining that they didn't have air conditioning when it was really hot and they were sleeping out on the balcony of their hotel room.
Oh, jeez.
All of this is like this massive machine that it just takes up, so much time and so many people. I'll put a link in the show notes. There was an article in the New York Times last week. The Tour de France is owned by one company called ASO, Amaury Sport Organization. It's been owned by the same family for 60 years or something. Mm-hmm. And they've had numerous people approach them to sell it, and they refuse to. Apparently private equity groups, the Saudis who want to, make it part of a cycling thing. The net profit is something like $170 million a year just from that event. And they also organize other cycling races. So it's a massive thing. And yes, for the photographers, and we're just talking about photographers here. Imagine the TV cameramen on this who are, they're not using these heavy cameras, right? But they've still got cameras on their shoulders. Mm-hmm. And, you're going around a hairpin turn at 70 kilometers an hour with your camera trying to film the guys in front of you. You see the camera tilting from side to side as they're doing the turns. Sometimes the motorcycle's in front of the rider, so the cameraman has to be turned backwards. And it's like, it's incredible. And yet, very rarely do they crash.
Very, very rarely.
They would say on TV, and they do say on TV every once in a while, yes, it was a motorcycle accident. And so, but it's very rare because these are really good drivers and really good camera people. So hats off to them. Good on you for making the most spectacular sporting event in the world, something that we can see both in video and in photos, and to experience this thing for 3 weeks.
Absolutely. All right. One last thing before we sign off. I wanted to talk about something that I bought recently.
You bought something?
I bought something, a camera thing, not a
camera thing,
not a $13,000 racing bike. Well, again, link in the show notes. Richard at DP Review wrote an article about this, and I knew about this before. And his article was kind of the thing that pushed me over. Godox makes a little flash. It's called the IT32. And when I say it's a little flash, it's like a little tiny flash that you put on top of your camera. It's a strobe, basically. It doesn't have a huge amount of output. But what's really cool and I guess innovative about this is that the post that you connect – so picture a strobe, and you have a hot shoe plate that you slide into the hot shoe on top of your camera, and that gives it power, and they talk, and then you can shoot with the light on top of your camera. That's great. But as we've talked in the past about when you're shooting with the flash, sometimes you don't want something directly right on the camera. So the way this is designed is that the hot shoe portion is just magnetically attached to the flash itself. And as soon as you pull them apart, the hot shoe becomes a little wireless transmitter. The strobe becomes a little wireless receiver, and you can just grab it and maybe, hold it at arm's length to get some light from the side. Or you could, go and set it on a shelf somewhere, and you don't have to set up a separate trigger system. You don't have to deal with any cables or anything. It's a genuinely interesting concept that is a little surprising that it hasn't happened before now. And it's great. It's super slick. And if you have other Godox lights, this little trigger will work on those too. So you could have this set up. As soon as you pull off the top part, you can control maybe 3 other lights around you. And then the last thing I want to mention is because you have this tiny little trigger that's a little magnetic base, you can get one for every kind of camera you have. So, for example, I bought this one. This is for a Sony connections, because Sony has little extra connectors on the bottom. But I also wanted one so that if I needed to use it with my Fuji X100V, I could just use that. And literally, I put that on top of the Fuji.
So it's the base that is compatible with the camera.
It's the base that's compatible with the camera. Yeah.
That's clever.
That's super clever. So let's say, actually, this happened several weeks ago when I was doing a photo shoot. I didn't have this, but it would have been super useful. If I had my Sony body and my Fuji body, and I'm shooting with both, but I want to control flash, you can move it over to the other camera, and they talk natively. So, whether you have it set up for manual or TTL or any sort of, regular flash mode, it just kind of happens, and you don't have to think hard about it. So it's very clever. Also, it's totally affordable. This is $100, and the adapter was $12, something like that. So,
wow.
So the only thing is it doesn't have a whole lot of light. It doesn't have a lot of throw. You're not going to be, really doing, a small group of people. But if you need a little edge light, if you're doing macro work, this would be a really good way to get some light on, a small flower or whatever. So highly recommended. We'll put a link in the show notes. Godox IT32 system.
Okay, that's enough for today. I don't have a snapshot, and Jeff has a meeting.
My snapshot is a meeting. No, my snapshot is this.
Exactly, yeah, but I don't have one to snapshot with you. Other than Tour de France, watch the Tour de France.
Watch the Tour de France.
But it's over, so you'll have to watch next year's.
Actually, you can watch this year's and last year's. I accidentally, because Peacock is the NBC channel for it, I accidentally watched the 2025 final stage because the newest one wasn't up, and I was like, wow, I didn't realize that that they had rain coming in, and oh my gosh, Wout van Aert won. And I even texted a friend, and he's like, Wout didn't race this year or dropped out. And then I realized that I'm an idiot. But I mean, it was Pogacar riding and dominating the race. So it was kind of the same. I didn't know. Anyway.
Yeah. Actually, the last stage was interesting. And because of, unfortunately, the wildfires in France, they couldn't have the gendarmes do the security for the first part of the race. So they started in Paris instead of doing like they usually do about 50 kilometers before, which is this kind of parade. And they take photos and the winning team is drinking champagne and all this. And it's really boring. And this was exciting. I think it was 89 kilometers. From the start, it was a fight. And They did a total of 9 laps, including 3 climbs up Montmartre, which is what they started last year, which was wonderful.
Wonderful.
I mean, this is really spectacular for final stage. So I think next year they may do something similar. Just keep it in Paris because it was really exciting.
Yeah.
Anyway, you've got a meeting in 1 minute.
Thank you for coming to Tour de France Active, and we will see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Photoactive. You can find show notes, including any photos we discuss in this episode, at photoactive.co. That's photoactive.co. We couldn't afford the M. You can join our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/photoactivecast. That's photoactivecast in one word. You can subscribe to Photoactive in your favorite podcast app or on Apple Podcasts. See the links on our website. And think about leaving us a rating or review in iTunes or in your podcast app.